Hello and welcome back to the Emotionally Fit Humans podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Taylor, and we are back here for episode 10, Self-Trust Under Pressure. And we're back after a short break over the holiday period and now getting back into the swing of things for 2026. Now, a through line or a golden thread throughout this podcast today is that you don't need perfect conditions. You just need to practice. And so in this episode, we're going to be looking at how we build self-trust under pressure, but through the 5 core emotional fitness pillars. And so I just am going to share a few stories of my holiday period and how I used my emotional fitness to build self-trust and to actually experience life and holiday period and all the chaos that brings with it with emotional calmness and experiencing it in the way that I chose to experience it. So in reflection, I came out the other side of the holiday period and I realized something that holidays actually create a lot of chaos. So outside of the norm of our normal routines, structure, rituals, habits that we undertake when we're at work and in the normal groove of what we call our life and our work. And so holiday periods can often bring greater stress, bigger emotions, and a different experience than how we anticipate or we intend them to be. And so what they reveal is that the weight that we've been carrying or the things that we've been avoiding, and it helps us to actually look at where our emotional fitness is strong and maybe learn some things about where it may need some training and some further practice. So when your routine has disappeared and you are entering into things like travel, you're eating different foods, you're sleeping in different beds, hotels, maybe at your in-laws or different family members' places. Kids are out of school, they're maybe sleeping in later, maybe having later nights. Your work is inconsistent, and I know my work is very spasmodic throughout, public holidays, holiday periods that I take away from my work. And so, and connecting with clients, and some of those clients have their staff on holidays. So it is very ad hoc, and at times I'm there when I'm required, but other times I'm in this total chaotic but enjoyable experience that we call life itself. And I notice that when we do this, maybe it's our nervous system looking for certainty. Now, we're just about to head into Chinese New Year. February 17th is where the year of the horse. So we have moved from the year of the snake, of the wood snake, and moving into the year of the fire horse spiritually. And I love that this symbolic transition helps us to also realize that leaving last year, 2025, behind and moving into 2026, we are shedding different skins as is symbolic. Old patterns, old identities, old coping mechanisms, and moving into the year of the fire horse. And what I say feels like a steadier call into momentum. Not rushing, not forcing, but a rhythm, cadence, like that galloping horse in a rhythm, a pace that's more sustainable. So today is a bit of a debrief. These are the lessons that I took from moving through that full season and the 5-part emotional fitness workout that I leaned into to work my way back into self-trust. So and I want you to think about this as a metaphor. We're going to stop at 5 different stations, like we're on a track riding the horse and we're stopping at 5 different checkpoints along the journey. And so at checkpoint number 1, this is our identity, our core. And so what the holiday period made me realize is that when things get hectic, I notice very quickly that I slip into an old identity, one that says I have to have it all together and I have to be the fixer and the organizer and the person who controls things and the one who has to be on top of everything and can't drop the ball. So when I step into identity at this first stop, I actually reflect on who is it that I choose to be when I'm under pressure, and how do I actually want to be? So how am I turning up each and every day? Because if I don't step into that identity, life itself can take over my identity, and then the experience itself becomes more of a pressure cooker situation. And what I learned through choosing this is that I actually get to choose my identity on purpose each time. And I think of this each and every day now. How am I showing up and what identity am I choosing to step into for that particular day or moment, short period of time? Even if I have to remind myself of this 10 times a day. So reflecting back on this chaotic sort of out of routine holiday period, I realised that I'm practicing trust, building that self-trust, and that I don't have to be in control mode. That I am allowed to be human. I am allowed to share how I am feeling about certain situations with the people that matter most in my life. And I did experience this in the holidays. That I could lead with calmness. I can have those conversations and that I don't have to be perfect. So all those emotions that come up can be experienced. So now back on the horse and we are galloping, getting into the cadence and rhythm again. And now we stop at station number 2, which this was the first step of shedding. It's a snake identity, right? Letting go of things that don't serve me anymore, the old identity, the version of me that thought in my mind, and we often do, that self-worth equals holding everything together. Because what I learn is that if I try to keep carrying this identity through that season of holiday period, it just makes me feel heavier. And the horse doesn't know how to move well under unnecessary weight and pressure. So the next lesson isn't about doing more. It's about understanding what season I'm in and being okay with that. So station number 2 is life stage. And this is where I say we build our endurance. And what the holidays revealed for me is that I had moments where I expected myself to operate like it was a normal week. And I did. I started a new contract at the beginning of January, on the 5th of January, and I was trying to get into a normal week. Yet this is when frustration was kicking in for me. I noticed these emotions turning up. The emotional friction came from trying to force a standard routine inside this high demand season. So I had to actually step back and reflect what season am I actually in? And do I let that season shape my expectations? So putting that pressure on me to be in a routine, yet I have other humans around me. It's not my normal work environment because there are other humans around me. There are people coming and going. There are different events, different ways of eating, all the things that come with holiday period. So what lessons I learned here in this stage, in the life stage, is about grounding me and naming the reality. This season is going to be pretty full, Lauren, and the goal here was a bit of steadiness, not measuring myself on busyness or the intensity. So that became the second shedding, realizing that I was setting unrealistic expectations and putting unrealistic pressures on myself. And as the holidays moved along, I also realized something else, that momentum without direction is just motion. So just getting through each day, just ticking off or crossing off a day on the calendar. If horse energy is about forward movement, it actually needs to know the direction it's going, and it needs a compass. And so this is where the next station comes in. That's where our values become everything. So if I'm focusing on my values of love, wisdom, and wealth, my top 3 values, that's where I start to focus on how am I building those connections and being present in those connections in this full season and life stage, where teenage boys, family circumstances, and does mean that people are becoming more independent. They're growing as adults. And so my values don't always rely on routine. I can experience these values when routine is not there. That these values travel with me through that particular life stage. So now we are at station number 3, values, where the stability and compass come in. And what the holidays revealed for me was that when I stretched, the biggest cost wasn't my tiredness. It was that I was beginning to resent some things. And resentment always pointed to one thing, that I was saying yes in ways that didn't match what mattered most to me and wasn't meeting those values. So I had to stop and reflect again. What did I actually stand for during this period? If I want to experience love, wisdom, and wealth with beautiful connections with the people that matter most, how am I tapping into that? And where am I drifting away from it? So the lesson learned here is that the turning point is getting really simple. I choose a few values that I want to experience and lead with and match them to my behavior. So that connection. I made space for having meaningful moments each day. So taking some time, going and reading my book on the beach, or if when we traveled the Great Ocean Road these holidays, playing some games with my teenage boys. And a great game that we played was Imposter, and a clever use of language and how to try and divert the imposter from thinking that you were the person with the correct answer. This is also building on love and connection, wisdom in reading, and building on wealth, because wealth to me is also my health, and bringing in those periods of presence, of putting my phone away and being really present with the people that I chose to be with, my family. And so even with my values, my emotions sometimes still flared up, because being clear doesn't stop us being human. So here's the next snake to horse lesson. I couldn't think my way into calm. I had to train flexibility, because this real moment of self-trust isn't when everything is smooth. It's when our nervous system is loud, when our emotions are turning up, and still choosing how I responded. And you have that power to choose how you respond within the chaos. So now let's move on to station number 4, emotional flexibility. So when these emotions are turning up, how do we respond? And what the holidays revealed this time is that I saw how quickly I could interpret stress or pressure as, a trigger for me, a trigger response or reacting from that place, snapping, being emotionally short, over controlling, going into getting things done mode, or even shutting emotions down. And so when we're being emotionally flexible, we have to start, the question here is, what meaning am I putting on this moment? And does this meaning help me or hijack me in the experience that I'm wanting to experience? And so after reflecting on that, what am I making this mean for me and for others? Or what am I making it mean about others or the world around me? So is this helping or hijacking the experience that I intended to have when we went on holidays? So here's the lesson that I learned here, is what helped me quickly reset is that I name it. Is it overwhelm? Is it sadness? And I normalize it. Of course, this is going to happen when routine is gone. So name it, then normalize it. And then I could notice the trigger. What triggered this? So I can then reframe it. So it's pressure, but it's not stress. It doesn't have to be stressful. I can be in the experience and reframe it, and then regulate myself through taking some time of thinking, what am I making it mean? Normalizing it. It's okay to experience this when you're outside of your normal routine. Finding that next experience to calm my nervous system, whether that's reading, whether that's communicating what's happening to within my experience to my family, whether that's finding a way to be more calm, going for a walk, or sitting peacefully at a beach. So this was another skin to shed, the story that said, because I feel it, that it actually has to be true. So the next lesson was the horizon, looking at the horizon, because if we're moving into horse energy, our horse energy needs a vision and visibility, a direction to move toward. And perspective gives me that. Perspective reminds me that this is a season. And in this holiday period, when children are on school holidays, things are a season. They're not a life term or a sentence. So now we get to station number 5 in the emotional fitness workout, which is our perspective. How can we build strength and look at the horizon? And what the holidays revealed for me is that sometimes it's okay to lose perspective. And sometimes things may feel bigger than they actually are. And so I'd gone into the black and white, always, must, need to thinking, or never. It should never feel like that. And so treating temporary stress like a permanent problem was a challenge. And so how do I reflect on this and quickly recover my emotional state here through perspective? the question here is, what would future me say that this was really about? So looking ahead, what would future me say that this was really about? And the sentence that helped me is that this was temporary. It's a chapter and not the whole story. So this is a short period of time, not the whole year. And quite often in school holidays, I observe other parents or other business owners putting additional pressure on themselves to have everything running like their normal work weeks. Mind you, on the contrast, I see some businesses who handle it really well. And one particular one I know where there are a number of women who are parents and they share the load of their children, of taking care of each other's children while they enable each other to have focused periods of time at work. So by the end of the season, I could feel this shift. The shedding had happened. Some old patterns I'd let go of and they don't come with me. And stepping into horse energy isn't about pushing harder. It's about choosing that rhythm, that new cadence, which brings me to the part that matters just as much as surviving the holidays. Now, how do we reset and have a re-entry without punishing ourselves for what was in that holiday period? So a reset isn't about punishing yourself, it's about reassurance. And so the first step here is around our nervous system reset first, and whatever that means to you. So for me, that means great hydration, drinking lots of water like I do, and having healthy foods that support my energy, and getting into a rhythm again with my exercise. And I must admit, I was very good through the holiday period at exercise. Getting into some earlier nights, some better sleep habits, winding down before I actually hop into bed, having that bedtime routine and that environment reset. Making certain that I am bringing that exercise in each day so that I can then, my body has moved, and so that I am tired and ready for bed. Another one is through calendar clarity, when you're resetting and starting to build momentum back into your normal routines. Getting clarity around your calendar of what are your 3 priorities for the day, or it might be your top 5s for the week. And then having buffers for transition time. You know, and I'll share it with my family, I have 3 children, and one is in high school, one is learning new routines of college. Year 11 and 12 is separate from high school where I live. And then my eldest child is transitioning into university. So being okay with that moments of transition, that I support each of my children, and my husband and I do, to transition into their new routines of buses and timetables and sporting commitments. So allowing that buffer period within your calendar. And then having non-negotiables, those anchors, habits. And mine, for example, is my non-negotiable of my 5 forms of exercise during a week. My 2 runs are my bookends, and then my 3 weight sessions during the week. Then I have a third step, which is 3 minimum routines. And these are exercise, planning, and regulation. So allowing myself that routine of a night to regulate, to know that what I do today will make tomorrow easier. So what I notice in business is similar. You can't expect every person to come back at full speed, like in horse energy all at once. And working with companies, I've observed this. Some of them have actually booked their trainings a little bit later in the year. Post February now, and I've done some trainings earlier this week of getting directors organised for their year, their annual plan, refining their goals, and then having some sessions with the whole team around their elements of their strategic and annual plan at the end of February to try to give them time to settle into routine work and then the focus of the year. So what matters this week? What are we stopping? And what support do we need to move forward by the end of February is a really good way. So in closing up, I didn't need perfect conditions. I just needed practice. Practice of tapping into the 5 key pillars of the emotional fitness formula. And just one question in closing. What sort of cadence are you choosing to carry forward this year? I'd love to hear your comments. Please put them in the comments of where you are listening to this podcast. And until next time, I'm Lauren Taylor and your host of Emotionally Fit Humans. I look forward to connecting soon.